Rating a book you've read can be tricky business. Do you count for quality or entertainment? Do you have standardized rubrics? And then sometimes when you're in a slump, it seems like you'll never find a 5-star book again. Luckily, I have discovered 5 things, 5 steps, 5 keys even, to get to a 5-star book rating, at least for me. Hello and welcome to Creatively Torn, a channel where I mostly talk about books and sometimes don't. So like the intro said, today I have discovered 5 keys or steps or whatever you want to call them to unlocking a 5-star book for me. So these are basically 5 things I almost always love about a book and will greatly improve the book's chances of garnering a higher rating from me. So obviously these will be very subjective. Perhaps they'll help you realize what sort of things you're looking for in a book, or at the very least it will tell you what things I'm looking for, which I guess would be helpful if you're going to recommend me a book. And that's about it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The first key to a 5-star rating for me is going to start with the prose. I'm a big fan of vivid and engaging writing. I will have a much easier time getting through your book if it has some of that in it. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to have flowery prose, which I do love, by the way. But if a book has brief, to the point writing, but it really hits and flows, it absolutely counts. I do like descriptions though, so you gotta tell me what characters look like, what the setting looks like, describe how they interact with each other and things like that. Really immerse me in the story. Additionally, a unique narration or a voice will almost always be very welcome in that endeavor as well. It always adds a little bit of flavor to whatever it is I'm reading. The second step, or whatever, is going to be characters. Believable, organic characters, to be specific. They can be as wacky or as evil as you want to be. Just as long as they feel genuine and like a real person or alien or animal or whatever. If the characters are generic and they all have the same thoughts and they just all sound like the author, it's going to be a brutal time for me. Unless the characters all die in very brutal ways, which, that may make up for it in the end. Next is going to be good pacing. I don't mind slow books, I don't mind fast books. But whatever plot there is, it should flow along at a nice pace. If things are getting dragged out needlessly, I will send it back. If things are getting rushed just to get to the ending and get things over with, I will send it back. It's got to have a good flow, fairly consistent. Just get the plot moving at an even pace, whether that's like a slow pace or at a faster pace. Just pick one and keep it consistent throughout most of the book, unless you have a very good reason to switch it up. The fourth key for me are short chapters. So give me all the 5-page chapters you want. Those are great. Long chapters can be daunting sometimes, and they may take forever to get through. And as someone who is always reading in between other tasks, being able to slip in another short chapter before having to stop for a while is extremely beneficial. One thing I know that Stephen King does, I'm sure other authors do as well, is that they will have very long chapters still, but they will break them down into little numbered sections, which that counts too. Whatever keeps me reading your book is a good choice by me. So keep your chapters short, or at least break them up somehow. And then lastly is a good ending. This one could be considered a sort of a cheap trick, but if a book is a pretty good book throughout most of the way, but then the ending or the final part really kicks it up a notch, I think that could very well elevate the book for me, particularly if the ending contextualizes things from earlier in the book. I think that will definitely make up for any kind of mediocrity that does take place earlier. Like I said, this one is a little bit of a cheap trick, as I know you could theoretically just write a bad book and then have a good, final third of it, and then have a successful book on that. But it works. I do like good endings, so that one absolutely will get the job done for me. So those are very quickly my 5 keys to a 5-star book, at least in my eyes. But hold on, there's more. I do have a few cheat codes to get me by as well. These are more simple things, probably more consequential things that you can add to your book that, if included, will almost certainly make me look more fondly upon the book later on. So let's get going with the first cheat code. That is cats. Put a pet cat in your story, or a panther, or a tiger, or something. I'm a big fan of cats, so as long as you treat them with respect, I think I'll be a big fan of the book. Whatever happens in the plot may be irrelevant as long as there's a cat. Next up is a reference or paying a homage to Edgar Allan Poe in any way. Poe is one of my favorite authors, and his work has been highly influential, both to classic writers and also to more contemporary ones. I honestly can't count the number of times I've read a book and I've seen a Poe reference, either directly to him or just referencing one of his stories. And most times I've ended up liking those books, so keep that up. Drop a Poe reference somewhere and I will probably catch it, and I will probably very much like it. Another cheat code is to have witty or dirty jokes. Either one, honestly. I'm a man of culture, I do appreciate a good fart joke, but will also smile at some clever wordplay. So if you have some of those sprinkled in your book, it's going to make it much more enjoyable for me. And then the final one is just to go dark, per se. What this really means is that you don't hold back from the grittier, more harsh aspects of the plot or the world that you're in. This can be a minor thing or a larger overarching narrative. If a book isn't afraid to explore the more controversial aspects, it's going to be a much more enjoyable read for me as well, as it feels more genuine and not censored or sugar-coated. So just keep it real. Don't be afraid to push the boundaries of what you're saying, and I think that will be a very good choice. Well, there we go, Earthlings. That is the end of my video. Do feel free to connect with me on the socials linked in the description. What are the 5 things that make a book for you? Go ahead and let me know down below. Really, that's all I have written in my script, so I'm going to stop talking now. But thank you for watching, and